have some work to do, so what better way to procrastinate than building an entirely new gaming/creating PC? Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm starting off on YouTube and I desperately need an upgrade. This was a bit overwhelming, but so rewarding. So sit back, relax, and hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. What's this? What is this? What? What is that in spin? That makes no sense. That makes no sense. I'm going to use my computer as my primary driver. So basically everything. It'll be used for my work from home job, but mainly content creation and of course gaming, but specifically gaming with ray tracing and high FPS. Alright, so let's get into the parts. Everything will be linked in the description below. Let's start with arguably the most important and expensive component of this build, the graphics card. I went with the Nvidia 4070 and here's why. First of all, I went with Nvidia over AMD because I like to use the Adobe Premiere Pro and Nvidia chips are optimized for Adobe Suite. As well as I enjoy giving Team Green my money because, I don't know, America? I picked the 4070 because I already have a killer 1440p monitor and the 4070 is perfect for that resolution. The 12 gigabytes of VRAM is not ideal, but compared to the 4060, which is only 8 gigabytes for now, I think the 4070 is the perfect sweet spot. On the other hand, the 4070 Ti is a great entry-level 4K gaming GPU. But for a whopping $200 more at the same VRAM, I'm happy with my choice. Before I get flamed in the comment section, PC enthusiasts, please don't come after me. I know 3060s are still going strong and are much cheap. I didn't want to buy used, okay? Thanks, love you. Now let's move on to the brains of the operation. I went with the i5 13600K and here's why. The 13th gen is a no-brainer as Intel did step up their game from the previous 12th generation. This could actually be considered an overkill for the 4070 if you're just gaming. For video editing, a powerful processor is actually more important than a top-of-the-line graphics card. Price-wise, I don't really see a point getting the i7 13700K because it didn't seem worth it. Okay, now let's cool this puppy down. I could go with a fancy liquid cooler, but I prefer performance over looks, within reason. Don't worry, she's pretty. Air coolers are definitely more reliable and less problematic. So I went with the Peerless Assassin. This air cooler has amazing reviews and the price to performance ratio is absolutely unmatched. I mean, $35? Are you kidding me? Now onto the RAM. Now the new generation of RAM called the DDR5 is showing great potential. I went with the GSkill Ripjaws DDR5 6000 megahertz. And since 32 gigabytes is the new 16, I went with the extra memory. Basically just so I can handle more than 2 Chrome tabs. Next up is storage. Again, I decided to splurge a little bit since this is going to be a YouTube Studio PC build. So I went with the Samsung 980 Pro 2TB Gen 4. So look how tiny these are. They're just so small. This is the newer 4th generation M.2 with transfer speeds reaching mind-blowing numbers like 7 gigabytes per second. Wow. 2 terabytes is a lot of storage, but we also live in times where video games can get really heavy. Okay, now let's talk about arguably the most intimidating component, which is the motherboard. Since I went with an Intel CPU, I need the LGA 1700 socket. So I decided to go with the Tomahawk Z790 Wi-Fi. And here's why. First of all, the Z series motherboards are the only ones for Intel that will allow you to overclock. This motherboard supports DDR5 memory. It has included Wi-Fi, multiple M.2 sockets, USB Type-C ports, and so much more for just $247. So it was an absolute no-brainer. Now all these components are gonna draw a lot of power. So for my PSU, I went with a Corsair 850 watts, rated 80 plus gold. As you can see right here, it is fully modular, so any cables that I don't use, I can just unplug. It'll be more than enough for my purposes and will even allow me some wiggle room with potential overclocking. It has great reviews and it will fit the build perfectly. And last but not least, the case we used is the Lian Li Lancool 216. I went with the version with the RGB controllers so I can unify the colors of the fans, but more on that later. For now, let's unbox. There's a more graceful way of doing this. Whoa. Guys. Wow. So this is the start power button, all the USBs, USB-C port as well. But here on this side is the RGB controller. I would like the case to be black, but the RGB lights to be just white. I think the contrast will look really nice. I got these Antec white fans, 120 millimeters. They will slide here perfectly. So that's very important, is recognizing how the fans are oriented. So because we can see that the fan curves here, that means this is actually the intake. Air will go from here this way. The back is already done as an exhaust. Air will be pulled this way. On top, we want the air to go outwards, but in the front, we want the air to go in. That's one. Done. Guys, what's this? What is this? Try this again. Okay, now that we have everything uninstalled, let's assemble it the right way. Again, exhaust up. Are you trying to get out? Okay, now that everything is installed, we can close it back up. And we have these nifty little screws. Let's secure everything in place. Onto the motherboard. Look at this. Okay, now we have our i5 13600K without dropping it on the motherboard. It's very important not to touch the actual pins. This should pop off completely. As it does, and there we go. The CPU is installed. Now onto the fun part. It's important to put the RAM in the second and fourth slot. So we're gonna open those up first, like that. We have two 16GB drives. Let's make sure to line up the notches. That's what we're gonna do. Drop it in. We're gonna hear a little click, like that. And then we have the other one. Again, making sure it's aligned, and then just a click. And there it is. We still have this puppy to install. Right here, we're gonna remove the heatsink first and then plug it in. Boom. Oh, that's very neat. Instead of a screw, we just have a little lever. Okay, so what you do is you put it at a 45-degree angle. So I'm gonna put it in like this. Again, 45-degree angle. Okay, now it's closed. Now we can install the heatsink back on. All we have left is to secure the actual air cooler on top of the CPU. I have taken the liberty of only selecting the items that we're actually going to need, which is the LGA back plate, thermal paste, brackets, heatsink fans, and finally the standoffs. Let's start off by installing the back plate. We're going to grab our motherboard, place these here, place it back down, and install the standoffs in their correct place. Okay, now we're going to install these brackets with the screws facing up. Okay, and finally we can install the actual heatsink. Just look how shiny and beautiful this is. Very important. Make sure to remove this. A bead-sized amount of thermal paste. This is actually plenty. Okay, that one clicked in. So I'm going to thread it through here, and then same thing on the other side. Plugged in, and now the brackets are ready to be installed. I will do the same with the other one, with the exhaust in the back. So I want this cable to be on the back of the motherboard, and hook the bracket accordingly. Boom, and boom. Now onto the second one, which will be going here. The fan is not going to bother the RAM at all. Okay, and this is the full motherboard prepped. We have the CPU cooler, the RAM under the fan, and we have the M.2 already installed. Now we can put this into the case. Let's actually install the motherboard. Just grab it, slide it in right here. This is the hub for all the GB and fans. These are the cables from the front of the case. And then this controls the 2 USB ports and the fan controllers. And here we have our audio cable. Here we have our USB-C cable. And here we have the USB Type A cables. And of course our front control panel. On this side, we have fans and then an extra USB cable. So now we can plug these into the motherboard itself. So here we go. We have here the audio cable and the F panel. So we're about to wire those through and connect those first. Okay, so the front panel is nice and plugged in. Next up, we're gonna plug in the audio. Next up is this JUSB cable. Unfortunately, there's only one USB port for the motherboard. There's a tiny little notch on top, so it should line it up properly. Cool. Then this one here is the USB Type-C port, and we're gonna also plug it in. This is the actual CPU cooler. Okay, so we plugged in all of the motherboard connections, which is the audio port, the ARGB 3-pin connector, USB-C connector, and of course the front panel. Now that we've done that, we can actually move on to installing everything for the PSU. Word of advice, make sure to first install everything you need to do. I put in 2 SATA ports, the motherboard connectors, 2 CPU connectors, and 2 PCIe connectors, and the Molex because my fans only use Molex connectors. Also, make sure to install the fan down. Of course, we're going to begin plugging in 12-pin motherboard connector. We can wire this through to this giant one. At the same time, we're also going to grab the CPU connectors and move them to the top. Actually, I'm going to wire the CPU the other way. This is the 12-pin connector for the motherboard. Perfect. And next up are the CPU fans. Okay, these are the Molex cables. And these are plugged in. Let's first uninstall the brackets with the graphics card. That's one. Now just a matter of removing this and plugging it in. Okay, it definitely clicked in place. Let's screw this back in. And this is the PCIe. You do have to add another pin. Perfect. All we have to do next is plug it in and see if it works. Okay, why is that red? I would like the case to be black, but the RBG lights to be just white. Ah! Why is that one spinning? That makes no sense. That makes no sense. So it works, but the exhaust wasn't spinning. Also the CPU cooler wasn't spinning because I had to plug that in, but now it all works. Okay, so everything works. Everything's spinning. Let's see if the GPU is spinning. Ow! Now all I gotta do is some cable management. I can finally start gaming. I mean, working. Working. Last but not least. All right, let's do this together, shall we? Oh, come on. I hope not to drop it. And again, moment of truth. Guys, it works. Yes! I want to thank my parents, the cat, you guys, thank you. Let's go! If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, I'm just starting off on YouTube. If you wouldn't mind giving the video a thumbs up, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.